Testing. Hi, everyone. If you are here for the book talk, please come to the stage area. We're about to get started.
Hola, hola. Pueden acercarse ya. Vamos a empezar pronto. Gracias.
Probando, probando.
Hola, Alpha. Welcome. Okay, whenever you say.
Shall we get started? Woo! Woo! Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the People's Forum. We are a movement incubator for international and working class communities. We offer political education classes, film screenings, open mics, art workshops, book talks like these, concerts, you name it. You can check out all of our offerings on our website or follow us on all social media platforms. We seek to be a space for marginalized communities all over the world. So we're very excited today to host my dear friend and comrade, Arelis, author of Quiltras, to our space. Woo! And she will be signing books after the talk, so if you haven't gotten a book, you can get one in the front desk. So be sure to do that and stick around. And I'm honored to introduce our speakers today. Of course, Arelis, who's a Chilean writer and translator. In 2016, her fiction debut, Quiltras, was first published in Chile, which won the Chilean Ministry of Culture's annual prize for short stories, and was listed as one of the best Latin American books of the year by the New York Times. It was later published and praised by critics, and when we say international, in Spain, in Mexico, Colombia, and France. In addition to being an author, Arelis has been a professor of literature and writing at the University of Santiago and the University of Chile. In 2019, she moved to New York City, which is how I got to meet her, to get an MFA in creative writing at NYU. And here in the big city, she founded Editorial Negra, which is a pocket zine of Latin American poetry. And next, we have my friend here, Patricia. Born and raised in Spain, Patricia Martín Rivas has been passionate about writing her whole life, but also pays the bills as a translator. She loves puns, word games, and you'll see her sprinkling all these words throughout her novels, short stories, and microfiction. And she likes to read her fiction at open mics. I have listened to her short fictions in this space during our open mics. and has won many literary contests and awards. And you can find her most recent series of stories, Love in the Time of the Coronavirus. I've read it, it's very good, on her webpage. And she's looking for the right publisher for her stories. So if you're interested, reach out. And finally, we have JP here, who is a writer and educator in New York City. He's a PEN 2022 Writing as Activism Fellow. His debut, On the Tip of Your Mother's Tongue, is the winner of 30 West 2020 Chaps book contest. His short story, Without a Big One, won the PEN Robert J. Dow Short Story Prize for emerging writers and appears in the PEN America Best Debut Short Stories for 2019. Thank you, and I will hand it over to our speakers.
Thanks, Yue. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm super nervous, but I'm gonna do my best. First, I want to thank you guys for being here with me tonight, and of course, to you. So we're gonna start out con una bilingual reading. And I want to tell you a story first. When I was 6 or 7 and I was in Chile, I remember this radio show. It was called Letras al Aire, something like books on air, or like literature on air. And I don't know, I love that show. I love that listening to stories through the radio. And when I was a child as well, I remember my dad reading stories for me. So we're gonna start out with bilingual reading, and to me, reading poetry or like literature for others like an act of love. So I hope you enjoy this act of love that we have for you guys. And also, I like to mention Allison Braden. She was born in the States. I don't like to say American, but she was born in the States, and she's the translator of these stories. So what you are gonna listen to is my own creation, but also Allison Braden's work, and she's not here tonight, but of course I want to thank her for her work. And last but not least, I wanna tell you how is this stage called. Do you know how is it called? It's Violeta Parra's stage. Yeah, yeah. And who was Violeta Parra, do you know? By any chance? Yes? Well, Violeta Parra was a musician, poet, an amazing artist, Chilean, just like me. And it's just an invitation to read her work and listen to her music. She was amazing. I'm the biggest fan. And she was the first Latin American women to have a solo exhibition at the Louvre Museum. Am I saying it right? Patty, she's one of my best friends in New York, and she speaks English, French, and Spanish, right? So am I saying it right, the name of the museum? The Louvre? Louvre, okay. So yeah, we're gonna start by reading an excerpt from Quiltras. So this is how the first story begins. And I'm reading, at the moment, I'm reading Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And this morning I read this line in the book, and I wanna read it to you. It goes, "The piece I'm going to repeat was written entirely for your amusement." And that's what is gonna happen. So, will you help me, please, friend? Okay. So, this is how the book starts. Ciudad desconocida. Cuando chica con mi prima nos dábamos besos. Jugábamos a las Barbies, a la comidita con tierra o a las palmas. Me quedaba en su casa fin de semana por medio. Dormíamos en su cama. A veces nos sacábamos la camiseta del pijama y jugábamos a juntar nuestros pezones, que en esa época eran apenas 2 manchones rosados sobre un torso plano. Con mi prima estuvimos juntas desde siempre. Nuestras mamás se embarazaron con 2 meses de distancia. Nos dieron pechuga juntas, nos quitaron los pañales juntas, nos dio la peste cristal juntas. Era casi obvio que cuando grandes íbamos a compartir una casa y jugaríamos a la comidita y a las muñecas, pero de la vida real. Creía que íbamos a ser ella y yo siempre, pero los adultos corrompen las cosas.
City unknown. When I was little, my cousin and I used to kiss each other. We dressed up our Barbies, built houses in the dirt, and played hand games. I stayed at her house every other weekend. We slept in her bed. Sometimes we'd take off our pajama tops and play around, touching our nipples to each other. At the time, they were barely 2 pink stains on a flat torso. My cousin and I had been together since forever. Our moms got pregnant 2 months apart. They breastfed us together and changed our diapers together. We got chicken pox together. It almost went without saying that when we grew up, we would live together and play house with dolls, but in real life. I thought it would be me and her, always, but adults mess things up.
En la familia de mi mamá eran 7 hermanos, 3 hombres y 4 mujeres. Los hombres vivían como los hermanos que eran. Habían estudiado ingeniería en la misma universidad, les gustaba el mismo equipo de fútbol y se juntaban a hablar de vinos y relojes. Las 4... Sorry. Estoy comiendo chicle, that's not a good idea. Habían estudiado ingeniería en la misma universidad, les gustaba el mismo equipo de fútbol y se juntaban a hablar de vinos y relojes. Las 4 mujeres eran un caos. Una se fue a trabajar a Puerto Montt, con suerte la veíamos para Navidad. Otra se fue siguiendo un pololo y ahora tenía muchos hijos y vivía en Australia. Casi no existía. Las 2 que quedaban, mi mamá y la mamá de mi prima, mi tía Nena, eran esposas de hombres brutos. Mi papá era una bestia y también el papá de mi prima, de esa gente que se cura para Año Nuevo y hace llorar a los demás. Nunca vi a los 7 hermanos reunidos. A veces nos encontrábamos en los funerales o cuando los abuelos celebraban un aniversario. Una vez fuimos a la parcela de uno de los tíos y en el patio había pavos reales. En nuestra casa apenas cabía la Pandora, una quiltra enorme que mataba a los gatos de los vecinos. Nunca entendí por qué vivíamos tan diferentes si éramos de la misma familia.
There were 7 siblings in my mom's family, 3 men and 4 women. The men lived like the brothers they were. They'd study engineering at the same university, liked the same soccer team, and got together to talk about wine and watches. The 4 women were a disaster. One left to work in Puerto Montt. We were lucky to see her at Christmas. Another followed a boyfriend and had a bunch of kids and lives in Australia now. She barely existed. The 2 that stayed, my mom and my cousin's mom, my Aunt Nena, married brutish men. My dad was an animal, and so was my cousin's dad. Like those people who get drunk on New Year's and make everyone else cry. I never saw the 7 siblings reunited. Sometimes we'd run into each other at funerals or when our grandparents celebrated an anniversary. Once, we went to one of our uncle's plots of land, and there were peacocks in the yard. Pandora, an enormous mutt who killed our neighbor's cats, barely fit into our house. I never understood why we lived so differently if we were from the same family.
Mi mamá y mi tía Nena se parecían, por eso eran amigas. La gente tiende a ordenarse con los de su tipo, en una segregación voluntaria, como el reciclaje o las donaciones de sangre, hasta que un día, no recuerdo por qué, se enojaron. Quizás fue porque mi mamá le pidió plata y no se la pagó. Quizás porque mi tía vino a almorzar y dijo algo malo sobre la comida. No sé, pero se enojaron y pasó lo que sucedía en una familia como la mía. En vez de resolver los problemas, dejaron de hablarse. Supongo que era una tregua, un acto de fe. Confiaban en que en silencio esfumaría las penas y que al dejar de nombrarlas también dejarían de existir.
That's a great line. My mom and my Aunt Nena were similar, which is why they were friends. People tend to group themselves by type in a voluntary segregation, like blood donations or the recycling. Until one day, I don't remember why, they got mad at each other. Maybe because my mom asked Aunt Nena for money and she said no. Maybe because my aunt came to lunch and criticized the food. I don't know. But they got mad at each other, and what always happens in a family like mine happened. Instead of resolving their problems, they quit speaking. I suppose it was a truce, an act of faith. They trusted that silence would dissolve the problems and that by not naming them, they would cease to exist.
Yo sabía que estudiaba en el mismo campus que mi prima. A veces quería encontrarme con ella. Otras me daba terror solo pensarlo. Un viernes estábamos tomando en el pasto y la vi pasar. Estaba preciosa. El pelo negro y liso hasta la cintura, su cara morena y tersa, una tenida hippie que le dejaba el abdomen al aire. Le hablé, nos abrazamos fuerte, nuestros pechos se juntaron como cuando éramos chicas. Me invitó con su grupo y la seguí. Fumamos marihuana y le contamos a la gente las tonteras que hacíamos a los 10 años, de la vez que le preparamos una coreografía de Michael Jackson a su papá para su cumpleaños, del año en que traficamos láminas del álbum de Sailor Moon en catequesis, del verano en que creamos un club ecológico que cortaba árboles vivos para conservar las ramas a las generaciones del futuro. La miraba reírse, sus dientes, sus ojos que me buscaban cómplice, igual como cuando una va a la disco y mira a un tipo que la mira de vuelta y una sabe y él sabe que nos miramos y por qué nos miramos.
I knew my cousin and I were on the same campus. Sometimes I wanted to run into her. Other times I was terrified just thinking about it. One Friday, we were drinking out in the grass, and I saw her pass by. She was gorgeous, shiny black hair down to her waist, her smooth, dark face, a hippie outfit that showed her midriff. I talked to her, and we hugged each other tight, our chests touched like when we were kids. She invited me to hang out with her group, and I followed her. We smoked weed and told people about the dumb stuff we did when we were 10. The time we choreographed a whole Michael Jackson routine for her father's birthday. The year we traded photocopies of Sailor Moon books and catechism. The summer we founded an ecology club that cut down live trees to preserve their branches for future generations. I watched her laugh, her teeth, the knowing look in her eyes, like when you go to a club and look at a guy who looks back at you, and you know, and he knows that you're looking at each other, and why.
So sexy. If you have the book, you can follow the reading. We are on page 17, just like the Bible. Después de esa noche fue como si nos correteáramos. Me la encontré mucho en la Biblioteca de Humanidades, en el casino, en los pastos. Siempre era igual. Hablábamos de cuando éramos chicas y de algunas cosas de la U. No hablábamos de nuestras mamás, ni de los tíos futboleros, ni de lo enfermo que estaba el tata en esa época, como si nuestra familia fuera solamente lo que pasó hasta el día en que la tía nena se gritó con mi mamá, en un quiebre que marcaba un antes y un después, tan irreversible como el nacimiento de Cristo o la invención de la escritura.
After that night, it was as if we were chasing each other. I ran into her a lot, in the humanities library, in the dining hall, on the quad. It was always the same. We talked about when we were kids and a little about the university. We didn't talk about our moms or our soccer fan uncles or our grandfather's illness at the time, as if our family was only what happened until the day Aunt Nena yelled at my mom, or breakup that marked a before and an after, an irreversible as the birth of Christ or the invention of writing.
El segundo semestre coincidimos en un seminario. Eran 8 clases y la vi en la primera. Estaba sentada con un tipo alto y rubio que la tenía abrazada. Me senté al lado, porque no conocía a nadie más y para marcar territorio, como los perros, como la Pandora que le gruñe a la gente que pasa por afuera de mi casa. El seminario era sobre América Latina. Cada semana iba un experto de un país distinto y hablaba. Lo mejor era que después de la última clase íbamos a viajar a Bolivia. La profe coordinadora quería que la experiencia fuera práctica. Iríamos a confirmar que los bolivianos eran personas reales y no detalles de un libro o una masa enajenada que en el 1800 se había aliado con Perú para hacer sucumbir al más desagradable de sus vecinos, Chile.
The second semester, we happened to take the same seminar. It was 8 classes, and I saw her in the first one. She was sitting with a tall blonde guy who had his arm around her. I sat next to her because I didn't know anyone else, and to mark my territory like a dog, like Pandora who growled at the people who passed my house. The seminar was about Latin America. Each week, an expert on a different country would come and talk. The best part was that after the last class, we were going to Bolivia. The coordinating professor wanted the experience to be practical. We were going to confirm that the Bolivians were real people and not details from a book or a deranged mass that allied with Peru in the 1800s to force its most unpleasant neighbor into submission.
Okay, so that's how the first story begins. You can clap if you want to. And we're going to read the last story. It's called Quiltras, Strays. It's on the page 93. And yeah, so this is the seed of the book, la semilla del libro. This is the first story I wrote. This is probably the first line I wrote that lately became this book. Quiltras. Me acuerdo del comedor lleno de caca de paloma. Me acuerdo de las manchas. Era como la mezcla de blanco y gris en la paleta de un pintor, pero secas y poniéndose verde oscuro, fosilizándose en el techo, en el suelo, en las ventanas, en la mesa al lado de nuestros tuppers con arroz con huevo o con porotos con rienda, calentados en el único microondas del casino. Me acuerdo que todo era cemento o era tierra. Me acuerdo del baño, con las tazas vomitando litros y litros de agua, regurgitando lo que alguien había depositado hace días, semanas o meses. Me acuerdo que había que entrar al baño aguantando la respiración o respirando por la boca. Los pies chapoteaban y una se mojaba igual que los días de lluvia, cuando la gran avenida se inundaba. Todavía se inunda así. Me acuerdo que había que pedirle confort, that's toilet paper en Chile, confort al inspector en el recreo, y todo el colegio te veía hablar con el viejo delantal blanco, pasándote un pedazo de papel medio café, áspero y enrollado, y lo que originalmente pretendías hacer en privado se hacía público. Me acuerdo de la biblioteca siempre cerrada. La única vez que entramos nos robamos 2 libros, y uno de Fuguet porque su nombre me sonaba de la radio, y tú uno de Hemingway, sin saber quién era. Me acuerdo de las salas frías en invierno y apestosas en verano, de los bancos rayados, de los vidrios rotos, de la pizarra quebrada.
Strays. I remember the cafeteria covered in pigeon shit. I remember the dry crust like a mix of white and gray on a painter's palette, turning dark green, fossilizing on the floor, on the roof, the floor, the windows, the table next to our Tupperware, with rice and eggs or beans and pasta heated up in the cafeteria's only microwave. I remember that everything was cement or dirt. I remember the bathroom with the toilet bowls vomiting up liters and liters of water, regurgitating what someone had left there days or weeks or months before. I remember you had to go in the bathroom holding your breath or breathing through your mouth. Your feet sloshed and you'd get wet, like on rainy days when the Gran Avenida flooded. It still floods like that. I remember you had to ask the vice principal for toilet paper during recess, and the whole school would see you talking with that white-coated old man, passed you a piece of yellow paper, rough and rolled up, and what you'd originally hoped to do in private would be made public. I remember the library, always closed. The only time we went in, we stole 2 books, an Alberto Fuget for me, because I used to hear his name on the radio, an Ernest Hemingway for you, without knowing who he was. I remember the classrooms freezing in winter and stinking in summer, the rows of benches, the shattered mirrors, the broken blackboard.
Okay, this is the last paragraph. The last paragraph we're going to read. Me acuerdo de ti, de tu primer día de clases. Llegaste y no le conversaste a nadie. Solo le respondiste a quien te habló. Te sentaste cerca de las 3 amigas que quedaron embarazadas. Una seguida de la otra, en orden, como si se hubieran puesto de acuerdo. Te preguntaron por qué te habías cambiado de colegio. Yo también me pregunté por qué llegabas al curso casi a mitad de año. Te escuché dar una explicación corta, no la que le hubieras dado a tu mejor amiga, esa que dejaste en tu colegio anterior y que más tarde reemplazaría yo. Dijiste que te habías venido de Santiago con tu mamá y por eso te habías cambiado de colegio. Solo eso. Luego supe que nunca habías querido el cambio, que tu ex colegio era mucho más caro, grande y bonito que el honorable Liceo Polivalente Ministro Abdón Cifuentes de la Cisterna. Después supe lo de tus papás, que tu mamá había echado a su viejo porque ya no quería ser la esposa amante de su ex marido, que se buscó un pololo y encontró un viejo gordo que se pasaba los domingos tirado en la cama durmiendo en la mona. Supe que tenías una hermana de tu misma edad, hija de tu papá en una familia paralela, pero que ella estudiaba en un liceo emblemático, mientras tú estudiabas acá, con las palomas haciéndose caca en el comedor y en el gimnasio y en las salas y en el baño y en las mesas y en nosotros. El trío de futuras mamás te preguntó cómo se llamaba tu ex colegio y abrieron unos ojos enormes cuando dijiste Buin English School College o algo así. Te preguntaron si hablabas inglés y dijiste que sí, que sabías rezar, y no sé por qué empezaste el Padre Nuestro. Our Father who art in heaven, y ellas con la boca abierta por la risa o el pánico. Te pidieron el Ave María y tú obediente empezaste, Holy Mary, Mother of God. Y al final, como buena niña, te persignaste, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Todavía me acuerdo, todavía sé rezar como tú, porque yo no rezaba ni en español, pero al escucharte quise aprender. Me imaginé que Dios podría escucharme mejor en inglés, que rezar en otro idioma podría cortar las largas distancias, podría ser un carrier que facilitaría la forma en que le enviaría a Dios mi enorme petitorio de demandas y quejas. Recé mucho, pero las ayudas nunca llegaron, quizá porque mi inglés nunca ha sido bueno.
Está fuerte. I remember you, your first day of classes. You arrived and didn't talk to anyone, just responded when someone spoke to you. You sat near the 3 friends who'd gotten pregnant, one after the other in order, as if they'd planned it. They asked you why you had transferred schools. I also wondered why you'd come almost halfway through the year. I heard you give a short explanation, not the one you would have given your best friend, the one you left at your old school, who later I would replace. You said you'd come to Santiago with your mother, and that's why you changed schools. That's it. Later I learned that you never wanted to transfer, that your old school was much more expensive, bigger, and prettier than the Honorable Liceo Polivalente Ministro Arbon Cifuentes in La Cisterna. Then I learned about your parents. Your mother threw your old man out because she didn't want to be her ex-husband's wife lover anymore. She found a boyfriend, an old fat guy who spent Sundays lying in bed, sleeping off hangovers. I found out that you had a sister your age, your father's daughter in a parallel family, but she studied in a prestigious public school while you studied here, with the pigeons shitting in the dining room, and the gym, and the classrooms, and the bathroom, and on the tables and on us. The trio of future mothers asked what your old school was called, and their eyes widened when you said Boeing English School, College, or something like that. They asked if you spoke English, and you said yes. You knew how to pray, and I don't know why, you started the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven. The girls were open-mouthed, in glee or panic. They requested the Ave Maria, and you obediently began, Holy Mary, Mother of God. And at the end, like a good girl, you crossed yourself. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. I still remember. I still know how to pray like you. I never even prayed in Spanish, but after hearing you, I wanted to learn. I imagined that God could hear me better in English, that praying in another language could shorten long distances, like some carrier that would make it easier to send God my enormous petitions of demands and complaints. I prayed a lot, but the help never came. Maybe because my English was never good enough.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so my friend, do you have any questions for me?
Before the question, just a quick shout out
Okay.
to show love to translators. Patricia, this sister,
Allison Braden.
Just because translators are so important and we take them for granted. And there's a lot of issues with this country. And one of the issues is that a lot of great works are not translated. So us in the States, we're not exposed to a lot of it. Just to throw that out there. My first question, when it comes to the title, Quiltras, I had to Google what it meant. And I discovered in Dominican Republic, we call them vira-latas, like doing Brazils, mutts, mixed breed. What do you want the title to do? How's the title working in this text?
The title, okay, Quiltras. So yeah, Quiltras is like the Chilean slang word to name stray dogs, yeah. And it's a Mapuche word. It's a Mapudungun word. It comes from the Mapuche people language. And I don't know, when I was a teenager, I was born to a working class family. So to me, like the Quiltro or la Quiltra was like a metaphor for the teenager I was. And quiltros or stray dogs, they usually are abandoned, they're hungry, they're lost, but they also are very friendly and loyal and savage and wild. And I thought it was the perfect metaphor to name the kind of teenager I was. You heard the story, right? I studied like in a high school, a very like poorly funded high school, and I wanted to use like a metaphor to name that. And also because usually stray dogs are half-breed animals, right? They're mestizos, and so am I. I'm mestiza, and I wanted to bring up that topic into the literature discussion in Chile. When I moved to the US, I discovered many, many different authors, and one of them is Toni Morrison. You may know her. She won the literature prize, the Nobel Prize in Literature, and she did a great work, like bringing up the African American experience in times where only like white, male, all guys were publishing. And I wanted to do the same. Like my intuition was like, okay, I want to depict like brown-skinned people in my books, just like Toni Morrison did here in the States. So yeah, I thought it was a metaphor to name myself, to call myself. I am a Quiltra, for sure. And also because of like the racist issue as well. Yeah, that's why Quiltras.
I have a related question following with the title. The book is full of Chileanismos, right? Like words that are used only in Chile. And I can't say I read a lot of Chilean literature, but I would say it's not like that usually. This is something I've seen in, García Márquez or, in other writers that, but it's not something it's done in mainstream literature in Spanish in any of the countries that speak Spanish. And so my question is like, why do you think in Chile is not done so often? And what do you think, what it means for the readers from other countries not to understand some words? What is that important for you? What do you think about that?
Okay, I've been thinking about this in Spanish. I'll do my best in English. But
puedes decirlo en español si quieres. I was asking in Spanish because we were speaking in Spanish. Pero
yeah,
podemos cambiar a español si
no,
quieres.
we can do both. And you actually asked me something like very similar. So yeah, when I was writing this book, there were many ideas. Like I was thinking about many ideas, or about like different things that I wanted to do. And I was really touched by this idea by Patricio Pron. Do you know him? He's an Argentinian author. He lives in Madrid or somewhere in Spain. And he has this short story. I read it in Spanish. It's called Un jodido día perfecto sobre la tierra. Something like one fucking perfect on earth or something like that. And he says, or like the voice, or like the narrator, el narrador, dice en esta historia, literature must sound like if someone were like whispering a secret in your ear, like como si alguien te estuviera susurrando sus secretos al oído, and not like a kind of Shakespeare como con estreñimiento en el baño. Like literature must sound like, or to put it in different words, to sound like real, you better use the words you speak when you write, if that makes sense. Escribe como hablas. So that was with me. I wanted to write the way I speak. And oh my God, I speak so horrible. Like I use slang and I curse all the time in Spanish and also in English. But that was my idea. And I was thinking about like people like me, in Chile. I had no ambition. I never thought that the book will be published internationally. But then that happened. And the first country where it was published was Spain. And I remember my publisher telling me like, hey, Arelis, what if we add like footnotes or like a glossary because like there's so many words, like Chilean slang words. Like what can we do? Like what if people don't get it? And then we realized that the title is slang Chilean words. So you want to put like a footnote in the cover of the book? You cannot do that. It's like ridiculous. So I was my Spanish publisher, and we were really scared. Like, oh, what if people don't get Chilean slang? But you know that depending on the country we come, and even depending on our backgrounds, our social class, or ages, we speak differently. Even though if we speak the same language, we speak it differently, right? And I don't know, but to me, I love when, for instance, I meet a Mexican speaker and I learn like, like güerito, or like, I don't know, or like Puerto Rican words, pana or whatever. What I'm trying to say is that I love learning new words, slang words, or like more sophisticated words. And I've learned that out there are many people like me, like hoping to find books that could bring them like new words. So I don't know if that replies your question, but yeah, finally the book works in different contexts and in different countries. Yes.
No, I personally love it.
Thank you.
I personally love it. It's my, I really like reading books like that. I like picking up the dictionary. I like making my readers pick up the dictionary.
Well, when I read your book, I had to do that. So thanks for that, for giving me new words.
That, and I think it makes the language richer and the literature more varied. So I really like that in your book. It's one of, I would say language, the use of language is one of its strengths.
Yeah, thank you. So it's like a picture, like a moment, a momentum, and you can see how Chilean people speak, basically.
That's real. And then when we read the Queen's English, I have to pick up the dictionary. I have to Google terms. And
but the Queen is dead.
She's dead. Se fue. So we have to do that when it comes to that English. However, when it comes to some other languages, it's like, oh, but why don't you give us a footnote, right? You referenced Morrison, and Morrison has a lot of female characters, women characters, the bluest eye, whether it be the bluest eye, we have a young girl transitioning, like being adultified. She's a girl treated like a young woman, adultified in that way, or being Sula, these two women and how their relationship transitioning in life and how the relationship transitions. I know there's a lot of the characters in this text, they're going through transitions, whether it be going home at night and being followed by a stray, or just being in one, growing from adolescence to young adulthood. And the theme it seems very deliberate. Like, okay, this was really planned out because every story hits that theme. Did you go in with that intention, or was it in the revision process where you were like, okay, there's this theme coming up of women going through transitions and growths? And
Yeah. Well, I agree. Yeah. Most characters in Quiltras, they're in transition. That's right. They're like growing up. They're teenagers becoming adults, or they are passing from high school to college, or they're moving from a small town to a bigger city. Yeah, but and also stray dogs, like they stray. They're in transition, right? But no, when I wrote the book, actually there were two ideas that I was like I was pursuing, and the first one is, okay, the two ideas are class and gender, okay? So back then, I don't know why, I've always been like an eager reader. I love reading, but I don't know why I don't know, till 10 years ago, I only read like books written by white, old males, and I'm quite the opposite, So when I had the idea of writing stories, I thought, first, I want to write from a working class perspective. And then when I moved to the US, I discovered this author, Sandra Cisneros. You may know her as well. She's Chicana, she's Mexican-American, she was born here to a Mexican family, and she was also born to a working class family. So I saw her once in an interview saying that she was attending this program, like a creative writing master's program or something, and one of the first, what do you call it, like tasks or like a homework assignment, thank you so much. One of the first assignment was, okay, students, write about your houses. And then in classes, they shared, their work. And Sandra Cisneros was really astonished by listening to the descriptions, like all her classmates lived in like huge houses and mansions, and she was raised in a working class family, so her house didn't look like that. So she thought, okay, I want to write about my experiences, and that's how she wrote The House on Mango Street, La Casa on Mango Street, a book that depicts, working class houses, like small houses, like people living really packed, or like siblings sharing like beds or rooms. And I had the same intuition in Chile many years later, and without knowing about Sandra Cisneros' work. And I thought the same, like, okay, I love literature, and according to Jorge Luis Borges, there are only 4 topics in literature: love, death, journey, and laberinto. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna write about the same topics again, love, death, but I wanna do it from a working class perspective, and I wanna show like my landscapes, my environment, my trashy corner store in my neighborhood. Quería mostrar eso, las experiencias de la clase trabajadora. And second, gender. By the time I was part of this feminist organization, we were trying to push to pass a law against sexual harassment in public spaces. Queríamos pasar una ley contra el acoso sexual en espacios públicos. And because of that experience, or because I was surrounded by so many feminists, I started to read feminist authors and also women. And this book came across Alison Bechdel, Dykes to Watch Out For. Do you know her? Okay, I love her, and she's Canadian and gay. And she had this newspaper strip for many years, Dykes to Watch Out For. And in one of the strips, 2 friends go to the movies, and I want to read the conversation among them, okay? So it goes like this. Dykes to watch out for, the rule. So the first friend says, hey, you want to see a movie and get popcorn? And the second one says, well, I don't know. I have this rule, see? I only go to a movie if it satisfies 3 basic requirements. 1, it has to have at least 2 women in it, who, 2, talk to each other, about 3, something besides a man. So when I started to think about writing a book, I thought, okay, I want to write stories where women are the main characters. I want to put like the feminist or the female experience or the feminine experience to the front. And fortunately, this book passes the Bechdel test. And so, yeah, I was thinking about the transition, of course, but mostly I was thinking about, I don't know, it's like a manifesto, For me, it was important to show like the feminist experience and the working class perspective. And that was with me when I started to write this book.
It's amazing. Patricia, you stole one of my questions, so I have a.
You want to go next, amiga? ¿Tú quieres preguntar algo? Let's ping pong.
Vale, y puedo como seguir por ahí, ¿no? Con lo de las clases menos privilegiadas, yes, que para mí es como uno de los hilos conductores del libro, de como que es algo que va casando los cuentos, ¿no? Y yo he identificado que estas clases se muestran de diferentes formas, por el lenguaje, la forma de hablar, los barrios en los que viven, la educación, ¿no? Como este fragmento que habéis leído sobre el colegio con las cagadas de paloma en comparación con el colegio inglés, ¿no? Y luego los apellidos, también hay referencias a los apellidos. Entonces, bueno, lo que hay mucho en el libro son relaciones de dos personas que vienen de clases diferentes, pero las relaciones son un poco como una cerilla, como un fósforo, ¿no? Como que duran un ratito, pero luego es como imposible que se queden encendidas y al final se separan. Entonces, bueno, mi pregunta es que si consideras que la desigualdad de clase que hay en Chile tiene solución o no.
Tenía.
Porque como que cada cual al final vuelve a su, ¿no? a su clase, ¿no? En el libro pasa eso, como que intentan ser amigas muchas veces y luego no. Y bueno, ¿no? Y sobre que hables un poco sobre las dificultades de subir de clase en un país tan capitalista y neoliberal como Chile.
Uf, qué dura pregunta. Antes de responder, quiero decir algo que olvidé acerca de lo que hablábamos recién acerca del género, que yo quería mostrar mujeres y la experiencia de ser mujer, pero además las diferentes formas en las que mujeres se aman. Entonces, cuando ustedes leen este libro, van a encontrar mucho lesbianismo, básicamente, eso es lo que les quiero decir, como don't be surprised. Y ha sido censurado en Chile, ¿no? Hay colegios donde no quieren que lean, como en high school no quieren que lean como sexo entre mujeres, pero ustedes sí, léanlo, por favor. Y sobre tu pregunta, Pati, yo no sé, hay momentos en que paso por mucha esperanza y momentos en los que paso por mucha desesperanza. Tenía esperanza, el domingo hubo elecciones en Chile, íbamos a votar una nueva constitución y hubiéramos aprobado una cantidad histórica de derechos, muchísimos, derecho al agua, al aborto, a la eutanasia, a la vivienda. Íbamos a ser un país plurilingüista, ateo. Perdimos todo eso en las urnas. Entonces, a veces siento esperanza en el cambio y cuando ando optimista pienso, bueno, si cambio yo, ¿cómo no va a cambiar el mundo, no? Pero a veces pierdo la esperanza porque los reaccionarios son muy poderosos y la gente que tiene privilegios no quiere que sus privilegios sean arrebatados. Creo en la resistencia, si no creyera en ello no hubiera escrito este libro, que es un libro que, como decía, describe los ambientes en los que vive gente de la clase trabajadora. Pero últimamente estoy un poco mucho decepcionada, es como un mal día para hablar de esto. Pero sé que la historia es cíclica y que los movimientos sociales y la historia no se detiene y tengo fe en que vamos a poder zarparle el cogote, como la yugular a esa gente, esos empresarios que no quieren soltar lo que es de todo Chile. Con el tiempo, espero. Las revoluciones suceden, espero que vuelvan a suceder. Y en el libro, claro, hay una historia que es Italia, que es de una chica con dinero y una chica empobrecida que se enamoran y hacen el amor. Y es el cuento que está censurado en las escuelas chilenas. Y sí, es un amor muy fugaz, es cierto. Pero no sé, yo, porque fui a la universidad y tuve el privilegio de que mis padres me permitieran estudiar 5 años sin trabajar, me moví socialmente. Pero me moví socialmente y adquirí, más que capital económico, debo decirlo, mucho capital cultural. Y eso me permitió viajar por el mundo, estar aquí hoy presentando mi libro, conocerles a ustedes, estar aquí en The People's Forum Tonight. Pero no creo que eso sea el camino para toda la gente, porque quizás no les sucede por la estructura de clases y quizás porque también puede que no sea válido, ¿no? Pero sí, quiero terminar con un mensaje optimista. Creo en el cambio social porque creo en el cambio y espero que en algún momento haya justicia social para mi gente de Chile y para como toda la gente, como toda la gente, como la working class around the world. No sé si eso responde a tu pregunta, querida mía. Bueno. Sí, ¿una más?
Una más.
Okay.
So I'm going to
One
read
more.
you a Bolaño quote, then read the ending of a short story, and then ask you this question. It's clear in Chile what's dangerous writing, what's threatening writing. It's a lot. I imagine from what I'm hearing, it's clear when you're writing, I'm imagining that you know when you're writing something that's potentially dangerous, right? Now, Bolaño writes, it's true that a writer's country isn't language or isn't only his language or her language. There can be many countries, it occurs to me now, but only one passport. And obviously that passport is the quality of the writing, which doesn't mean just to write well, because anybody can do that, but to write marvelously well. Though not even that, because anybody can do that too. Then what is writing of quality? Well, what it's always been, to know how to thrust your head into the darkness, know how to leap into the void, and to understand that literature is basically a dangerous calling. This is Bolaño, right?
Yeah.
And then you end Leap Day with, afterward, she held my face and warned me. Writing is dangerous. She looked towards our parents' rooms. She gave me a kiss, then went up to her room to pack her suitcase. Now, my question to you is like, New York City, places of the left, supposedly there's complete freedom in what we create, what we write. But when you put pen to paper now in this context in New York City, in the States, when do you know, when do you feel that sense of danger? When does that come up for you, if it comes up for you?
Oof. Oof. No, it's a hard one. I don't know. Lately, probably because I've gained like a position as an author, I don't feel in danger anymore when I write. What's a shame, you know? I don't know. It is. But yeah, I don't feel in danger anymore. But I really admire authors that have been in danger, you know. And como no puedo pensar en mi propio cuerpo en peligro, sorry, I'm going to put this in English. I mean in Spanish, it's easier for me. Solo me gustaría traer a colación an Argentinian author that I really admire. His name is Rodolfo Walsh. Do you know him? Oh my God, he was a journalist. So am I. But I write like muy cómoda desde mi escritorio. Vivo en un apartamento pequeño en Ridgewood, pero aún así no hay there's no gun like pointed como a mi cabeza en este momento. I'm not threatened. Pero Rodolfo Walsh fue un periodista que durante la dictadura argentina puso la vida, el cuerpo y su talento escritural al servicio de la verdad y la justicia. Entonces, espero que allá afuera haya otros autores poniendo la vida y el cuerpo por las causas. La mía es siempre escribir desde como like the common people, from the working class people, porque es de ahí de donde vengo y I'm tired of reading stories from a rich class perspective, and I'm tired of the stories on TV or in movies que ponen siempre como blue eyes, blonde people, like como siendo los protagonistas y solo mostrando esa forma de belleza. And I don't know if this put me in danger, pero eso es lo que quiero hacer. I want to like show that kind of complexions and stories. Entonces, para cerrar lo que decía de Rodolfo Walsh, yo sé que allá afuera, en contextos más duros que el mío, debe haber alguien hoy día poniendo la vida y usando la literatura o las letras como su arma. Y lo agradezco y espero que haya gente haciéndolo y espero que su vida no esté amenazada. Pero en mi caso personal, quizás porque estoy en Nueva York, que es como New York's gay, so am I a little bit. I mean, I'm bi. Entonces, como que acá no me siento amenazada porque es como una super left-wing city, you know? Pero aún siento que escribir sobre no ser heterosexual o escribir sobre no ser, o como, sí, no ser una persona europea o escribir como desde los márgenes, creo que sigue siendo como un acto que requiere valentía. Y algo de eso me queda, pero damn, he envejecido demasiado bien, así que no me siento tan amenazada ahora, lamentablemente. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Patty, you have one more question?
Sí, voy a aligerar un poco, que nos estamos poniendo un poco intensos. Yo ya leí la versión de México, me parece que también tiene el prólogo de Gabriela Wiener, y eso es un privilegio, ¿no? Tener un prólogo de esta mujer tan increíble, también una luchadora desde la pluma. Entonces, bueno, esta nueva edición también tiene el prólogo de Gabriela Wiener y luego tiene un cuento nuevo, ¿no? Y
Así
bueno,
es.
¿nos puedes contar de qué es este cuento, cómo enlaza con el resto y cuál es la motivación para incluir un cuento nuevo?
Sí, bueno, cuando este libro fue publicado en Chile originalmente, mi editora me dijo, ok, colecta algunas historias y le mandé lo que yo tenía y eso se publicó. Y luego, later on, en mi computador, de repente, todavía me pasó la semana pasada, aparecen escritos, ¡pop! Cuento, ¡pop! Cuento. Y es como, wow, como no me acordaba que había escrito eso, como de dónde salió. Y cuando se hizo la primera edición en España, mi editora española, la que quería poner notas al pie, me dijo como, hey, ¿tienes alguna historia por ahí? Yo dije como, sí, tengo una, la escribí en la misma época, pero se había extraviado en mi computador, no sé por qué nunca la incluí, incluyámosla ahora. Y esa es 29 de febrero, que es la historia más larga del libro, y que es una historia que me gusta mucho cómo están trenzados los personajes, tiene hartos como plot twist. Y luego esa edición se replicó en Francia, en Colombia y en México, y ahora la edición chilena incorpora esa historia. Y eso también está escrita como desde una working class perspective, es como una niña que vive en una casita pequeña, en un barrio popular en Santiago de Chile, y su hermana queda embarazada, que es algo como, like getting pregnant is something that working class teenagers experience often. Y eso pasó en mi familia, y eso pasó en las adolescentes que me rodeaban cuando yo era más joven. Entonces, se trata un poco de eso, sobre los estigmas que hay sobre las mujeres y su sexualidad, y en particular sobre ser como teen parent. Yes. Bueno, creo que eso es todo, ¿verdad? Bueno, podemos tener unos aplausos. Gracias, gracias. Gracias. Wow, time flew. Now we have a Q&A moment. Si ustedes tienen una pregunta, yo creo que tenemos tiempo para 2 preguntas. Así que si alguien quiere preguntar algo, please go ahead. Okay, thank you. Catalina, right?
Hi, yes,
Hi.
thank you. Okay, I guess I'm gonna ask this in English. It's a twofold question, just because I'm really interested in both answers. So first, if you could walk us a little bit through your writing process, like what I'm reading here and what you just read seems like it really comes from the heart, and I'm just very interested in that. And then secondly, if you could tell us a little bit of what's next for you, that would be great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course. I'm going to do a little bit of Spanglish, so if the word doesn't pop up in my head in English, I'm going to use Spanish, of course. So my method, I'm always reading a book and I'm always writing a book, like always, all the time, every day. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm always writing. Y lo que hago es que intento como siempre incorporar palabras nuevas que se parecen, o siempre estoy intentando pensar cómo un texto puede ser aún más metaliterario, cómo jugar con la literatura, ¿no? Because writing or like literature or words permiten como ciertos twists que otro tipo de artes no. La música tiene sus propias reglas, and also literature has its own rules. Sí, eso. Leo mucho, escribo mucho, dejo los textos reposar. I always need proofreaders. So to me, literature or writing is a collective action. Entonces, si bien yo escribo sola, I always need like someone else que me lo lea y me diga si se entiende, o I don't know, sometimes como que puedo tener faltas de ortografía aún, o cosas como esa, o typos. Yeah, that about my method. And, what's next? Okay, so, well, if you don't know, probably you don't know, after Quiltras, I published 2 other books, Que Explote Todo, which is already only in Spanish, May It All Blow Up, it could be a translation, Que Explote Todo. And it's a collection of opinion articles. Yeah, because I'm a journalist. Y cuando era joven, o más joven que ahora, I'm still young, pero cuando era más joven que ahora, I used to be such a, como incendiaria, era como tan incendiaria y tenía tanta rabia y el patriarcado me daba tanta rabia. So I wrote many articles like fighting against patriarchy And yeah, May It All Blow Up is a collection of opinion articles on politics. And after that, I published Las Heridas, like the wounds, which is like the story of my family. And it's a super, super, super sad book, so please don't read it. Because I cried like, cada línea que escribí de ese libro la lloré, y es un libro muy triste, but I don't know, literature is part of my life, and I feel like my experience, como que la experiencia para mí de mi vida nunca está completa hasta que no la escribo. And I needed to tell that story, and it was published, pero es un libro muy triste. Y, what's next? Estoy escribiendo una crónica, a long form journalism piece, y es no ficción. I love non-fiction. Es como, alguien me decía antes, como in cold blood, es como a sangre fría de capote. Yeah, I wish it could be. Ojalá sea un poquito, pero sí, es una crónica para la que voy a volver a Latinoamérica a reportear en Cusco, Perú y Chile, y espero terminarla en 3 años. Oh my God, I've been writing for 2 years, and I know that I still need like another 2 or 3 years, so like definitely long form journalism. Pero algún día verá la luz. Eso, gracias por tu pregunta. ¿Alguien más? Oh, María, I love you. She's my panita.
Okay, cool. Hola.
Hola, amiguita.
So, mi pregunta es, and I'll speak in Spanglish. Dijiste, y sé que Quiltras es un libro que leen los escolares. Y, you know, I know a lot of women or teens in Chile must also feel deprived from their womanhood or their sexuality. So I'm wondering if you've had the experience of any teenagers or, you know, college students that have maybe talked to you about this book resonating with them, because I'm sure it's the experience of many teenagers. Just like there's many books in New York, there's a great book called The Poet X. So I'm wondering if you've ever had that experience of youth maybe resonate with you in this book.
Yeah, thanks for that question, amiga. Yeah, absolutely. I had the privilege of being invited to talk about my book in high school in Chile. Y, okay, hay algo bueno y hay algo malo. So I was telling you that this book has been censored because it has like sex on it, and it talks about lesbianism, and some teachers don't feel like ready to discuss those topics with their students. Entonces me ha pasado que me invitan a escuelas y han leído como una versión como recortada del libro, but even though ellos me han dicho como que se han encontrado en el libro, pero en particular aquellos estudiantes que han tenido la suerte de leer el libro completo, no el recortado, y me han dicho como, yeah, like I feel the book because like I've been through that kind of experience, like first kisses or like como the first time you fall in love, y como que este libro igual habla de eso, and that's beautiful because me acuerdo que esto me pasó en una escuela. It was a boarding school, I guess. Sí, eran como internado y era solo de hombres. Y este libro está protagonizado solo por mujeres. Y los chicos, pese a leer historias where como que los principales personajes son mujeres, se sentían identificados igual con la historia, which makes me think that literature is universal, no matter like como cuál es tu género o como your gender identity or sexual orientation or whatever. Y eso fue como muy gratificante para mí. And also, when I started to write this book, I thought, okay, I would love to write the book that I would like to read when I was a teenager. Y funciona para adolescentes, y eso es muy lindo. Y otra vez me pasó que me invitaron a ver a mujeres que estaban en prisión y le hicieron leer Quiltras. Y yo pensaba también como, hoy se irán a identificar con las historias, y sí. Y recuerdo perfectamente una chica que hablaba de City Unknown, de Ciudad Desconocida. Hay una escena, Ciudad Desconocida, donde las chicas duermen en el suelo and they make like a makeshift pillow, como que hacen una almohada hechiza, como que improvisan una almohada y se tienden a dormir en el suelo. porque duermen en el suelo y bueno, ya está. Y una de las chicas que estaba en prisión me dijo, esa parte, esa escena me recordó mi primera noche en prisión, porque yo no tenía nada donde dormir. And I was like, whoa, my God, that blew my mind. Porque dije como, jamás pensé que en un detalle como ese ellas pudieran generar identificación. Entonces sí, es muy lindo como mirarse en el espejo de personas muy distintas a mí, pero darnos cuenta de que finalmente, y por eso la literatura es tan hermosa, and I know that you're going to find yourself in the book, because literature is about like being humans, and it's about connection, and it's about love, and every human is able to experiment, como de experimentar eso. Yes. Thank you. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for coming. Now that's it. Now we're going to a bar, a dive bar, I hope so. And if you want me to sign your book, I'm going to be here. And I think we have like 10 or 15 minutes for that. So yeah, thank you so much to the People's Forum. Yeah, please, aplausos. Thanks to JP for being with me. Muchas gracias, amigo. I love you. Va a estar siempre en mi corazón. And thanks to Patty. I love you, amiguita. Gracias, gracias. And thanks you all for being here tonight.